All right, hello and welcome. Today we're going to fire up the forge and feel a little sea spray because we're diving deep into the ancient parable of Hephaestus and Aphrodite. And trust me, this is way more than just a myth about two gods. It's a timeless story about the really profound and, yeah, often turbulent harmony you find in opposites. So, to really get this story, you have to understand the core tension right here on the screen. On one side, you've got Hephaestus. He is the forge. He's all about function, durability, heavy iron. He's static. And on the complete other side of the universe, you have Aphrodite. Literally born from sea foam, she's wonder, fleeting emotion, sea mist. She is fluid. And we're not just talking about different personalities here. This is a clash in the very fabric of who they are. And that brings us to our first section, which explores this union of opposites. I mean, how on earth does a marriage between the spark from an anvil and the foam from the sea even work? Let's get into it. So first up, let's talk about the master craftsman, Hephaestus. Picture this. Deep in the heart of Mount Olympus, the air is just humming with the rhythm of his forge. He spends his days covered in soot, working in the shadows, making these incredibly intricate clockwork machines and unbreakable chains. His whole worldview is built on function and durability. Everything has to work and it has to last forever. You know, he was as sturdy and somber as the iron he was always working with.
And then there was Aphrodite. She was like a vision of soft light and sea mist, moving like a melody right through all that harsh clanging in the smithy. Her worldview? It had nothing to do with durability. It was all about aesthetic wonder, beauty, and those fleeting emotions that make life worth living. She was, in every sense of the word, a wild, sea-born spirit.
And if you need one single image to understand their dynamic, this is it. Hephaestus, in a grand gesture, once forged her a throne of solid gold. I mean, a masterpiece, right? He thought its weight, its value would prove how deep his devotion was. But for her, it was just cold, rigid metal. She found it totally uninviting and actually preferred to sit on the soft living moss that grew near the forge. He offered permanence, she valued life.
But, their differences didn't always lead to clashes. Sometimes they led to absolute magic. And this next part of the story, this is where we see their two worlds coming together to create something that neither of them could have possibly made alone.
So, Hephaestus decides he's going to make his masterpiece, a mechanical bird, all silver and gears. He labored over it, polishing every single piece with just meticulous care, making sure every spring was perfectly aligned for a flawless, eternal performance. It was a true testament to his incredible skill, designed to mimic the song of every single creature in the forest.
But when he gave it to Aphrodite, she saw something he completely missed. She marveled at its precision, of course. I mean, who wouldn't? But she also saw its one giant limitation. It was perfect, yeah, but it was predictably perfect. Its song never changed, it never faltered, and it never surprised. It had form, but it didn't really have a soul.
And then she does something that is just so Aphrodite. She leans down, whispers a little joke to the silver bird, and touches its cold beak with a warm, laughing finger. And right then, to the smith's total amazement, the bird's rigid, perfect rhythm, it just breaks. It lets out this joyful, spontaneous warble, a sound that defied every gear and spring inside of it, a note he could have never engineered.
And that was the big light bulb moment for Hephaestus. For the first time, this rare smile comes across his soot-stained face. He finally got it. His hands, his skill, his logic, they could create a perfect body. But only her spirit, her joy, her spontaneity, only that could give it a soul. In that single moment of shared wonder, the huge gap between the heavy anvil and the light heart was finally bridged.
But, like in any good story, those moments of perfect harmony don't always last, right? The fundamental tension in their natures, it was bound to bubble up again, especially when the rigid logic of iron tries to understand the fluid nature of love.
You see, for Aphrodite, that forge started to feel less like a workshop and more like a cage. The relentless heat, the endless work, the long shadows, it all just stifled her wild, sea-born nature that needed change and excitement. So, while Hephaestus stayed loyal to his craft, her need for passion led her to seek it somewhere else.
Which leads us to this question, which is really at the heart of the tragedy that comes next. Hephaestus is a craftsman. His solution to every problem is to build something. So when he's faced with an emotional problem like a broken heart, what tool does he reach for?
And what he does is exactly what you'd expect. He doesn't confront her with words, he confronts her with his craft. He forges an invisible, unbreakable net, another one of his masterworks of capture, and he uses it to trap her. He literally tried to apply the unyielding laws of iron to the chaotic laws of love. And, well, he learned a pretty painful lesson. He found out that you can physically chain a body, sure, but you can never, ever capture an essence. You can't trap laughter in a net. You can't snare wonder. He realized the spirit of the laughter-loving goddess had to be free to be truly appreciated. Any attempt to control it just makes it disappear.
Okay, so you might be thinking, if they were so different and their relationship was so full of conflict, what's the big deal? Why is their union so important? Well, let's pull back and look at the deeper, symbiotic meaning of their bond.
It all comes down to this incredible symbiotic relationship they had. Think about it this way. Without Hephaestus, the smith, Aphrodite's radiance has no physical form to inhabit. The gods don't get their grand palaces or beautiful jewelry. But, flip that around, without Aphrodite's touch, all his amazing creations are just cold, lifeless artifacts. They have no purpose, no grace, no reason for anyone to desire them.
So at the end of the day, that's what they are. They're the union of the hands that build and the heart that feels. He provided the structure that gave the world its grandeur, and she provided the purpose, the desire, and the beauty that made all of it worth having in the first place. It shows that even the most grounded, practical work needs a little touch of the ethereal to be complete.
So why does this ancient story still matter to us today? Well, because this whole dynamic between the forge and the foam, it's not just some myth from Mount Olympus. It's a conflict that exists inside every single one of us.
And this idea right here just hits the nail on the head. We all have that Hephaestus inside us, right? The part that works hard, builds a career, pays the bills, creates stability. But we also have that Aphrodite spark, the part that craves joy and passion and beauty, to make that stable life we built actually feel bright and meaningful.
And that really is the bottom line of their whole messy, beautiful story. The structure, the discipline, the hard work, that's the forge. That gives our lives strength, a solid foundation. But the joy, the spontaneity, the beauty, that's the laughter, and that's what fills our lives with life.
So this whole parable kind of leaves us with a guide for our own lives. It tells us, 1, build your foundations with the care of a master craftsman. 2, but in that sturdy house you build, never ever forget to leave the windows open for the sea breeze. 3, honor the discipline of the forge. And 4, embrace the spontaneity of the dance.
And that's the final thought I want to leave you with. As you go about your day, just think about this balance inside of yourself. Is your inner forge burning a little too hot, leaving no room for anything else? Or maybe, is there so much sea breeze that nothing solid can ever get built? In your life right now, what needs a little more discipline, and what needs a little more dance?